Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next is roll call, please.
Okay. Chair Switzer,
Present.
Vice Chair Weinfeld is absent. Member Bradley is absent. Member Kaczynski,
Present.
Member Mudry,
Present.
Member McConnell is present. Member Elsinga,
Present.
Member Proctor is absent. And Member Meadow
Here.
is present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next is approval of agenda.
Move approval as presented.
Support. Moved by Mr. Kaczynski, supported by Mr. Modry, that we approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carried. Next is approval of minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the minutes of the February 13th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. Summary record of public hearing for case number 1-23-2. Summary record of public hearing for case number 1-23-3.
Support. Moved by Mr. McConnell, supported by Mr. Modry, that we approve the minutes as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Citizen comments for items not on tonight's agenda. Seeing none. Correspondence, we have none. Old business. Mr. McConnell.
Yes, we have case number 11-22-08, special land use permit to allow for a tractor trailer facility on a 10.22 acre undeveloped parcel on the northeast, and it should actually be northwest corner of Waverly Road and Old Lansing Road.
Okay, Matt.
Right, so this is a continuation of a request that we had in the December of 2022. Essentially a truck terminal at the corner of Waverly Road and Old Waverly. This is north here, Waverly and Old Lansing Road. In December 2022, we held a public hearing. Essentially postponed a decision on the request until the applicant could provide a traffic study to show that the development wouldn't exacerbate existing conditions in the area, and also to allow for the ZBA to vote on 3 variances. The ZBA ended up approving the variances, and the applicant has provided a traffic study. The third item that we sort of during the public hearing last time, we discovered that our code of ordinances doesn't actually allow the applicant to exit onto Old Lansing currently. So that staff is going to create amendments to section 38-58 of the code of ordinances to designate this portion of Old Lansing Road and the portion of Mount Hope Highway east of the freeway interchange as truck routes to allow for that to happen. That we're recommending that you require that as a basically as a that the special land use permit, if you intend to approve it, wouldn't go into effect until that was done. We're currently working on it, and it should be done next month or so. But we were recommending that as a condition of approval. As far as the traffic study that you asked for, the traffic study concluded that or evaluated the 2 intersections. So Mount Hope and Old Lansing Road, they determined that it's currently running at the highest level of service, level A, at both the AM and PM peak hours. And the other entrance at let's see, Waverly and Old Lansing is a B in the morning and then A at night. The addition of 40 trips in the morning during the morning peak hour, 20 in and 20 out. And this is based on their existing facility in Grand Ledge. And then the addition of 15 trips, 5 in the morning and 10, or 5 in the morning and 10 out at night won't impact traffic, current traffic levels. So it will remain AA in the morning, or AA for the Mount Hope Old Lansing Road, and then a BA for Waverly Old Lansing. So the traffic study provided said that it wouldn't impact current traffic patterns. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to ask. And Kirk Rahulik for the applicant is here as well if you need to talk.
Okay, can you refresh us as far as to what the 3 variances are, please?
The variances were for, let me pull this, basically to have non-curb parking. I believe it was I could pull that up. It's a reduced.
On the property?
Yeah, like uncurbed parking. That was it was the reduced landscaping buffer. And I had to pull up the third one. I was like, I don't remember what the third one was, but the third one was for they went impervious or crushed concrete instead of asphalt. So it would, for the permanent truck parking
Okay.
or long.
Commissioners, any questions of the staff? Mr. Kaczynski?
Has anybody asked for an opinion from the drain commission or anyone else, given this is a truck repair facility and there's likely, the presence of potentially toxic fluids and that kind of stuff?
I sent it out in December, and I just got the kind of like, since this isn't the full-fledged site plan, they
Right.
kind of gave a cursory, like it seems like it could meet standards. Then the road commission didn't have any issues. I believe the Eaton County Road Commission has jurisdiction over the old Lansing exit, and then Ingham County has for Waverly, and they both basically said that it could be approved.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
more concerned with that semi-permeable surface, that there could be toxic materials that could pretty easily get into the ground.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. McConnell?
Matt, I believe the hours of use, did I read that it was 9 to 5 proposed? I thought I saw that in
I
here.
think it was 6 till 9.
Yes, again, it was 6 to 9 PM, I believe.
Was what time?
6 to 9 PM, 6 AM to 9 PM, I believe, for the,
6 to 9.
yeah.
Okay, well, I thought it was 9 to something else. Okay. My question is, can we specify the hours? And my reason for asking that is that the traffic issues are essentially during peak traffic hours.
Mhm.
And that would be especially problematic for the access on Old Lansing Road at peak Lansing hours.
But yeah, you would have the ability to recommend hours of operation. The township board would have the final say, but yeah, you would have the.
Or at least some agreement that they control traffic at those times. Okay.
Mr. Modry?
Matt, it said the truck terminal would add 40 trips. Now, is that average or maximum?
That'd be basically, that was based on their current usage. That'd be around like an average day, 20 in, 20 in off of Waverly and 20 out on Mount Hope.
So it's an
Or
estimate.
on Old Lansing, sorry.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
So that is the
Based
way
off,
it's gonna run, it's gonna come in on.
yeah, it's gonna
Waverly?
come in off of Waverly and then the exit would be onto Old Lansing. So it's there's a designated.
That's the best
Yeah, yeah.
alternative.
And that's why, that's why we want to amend our ordinance to allow them to
Okay.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mr. Kaczynski?
just to clarify, so if we were to put in the proposed stipulation about the truck zone or truck route,
Mhm.
They would only be able to exit the facility eastbound to Waverly, correct? They would
Yeah,
not-
without that change, that's
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
Eastbound to Wayne. Say that again.
So currently, our our truck route ordinance, section 3858, the Waverly Road is a truck route, but
Right.
this portion of Old Lansing and then also the section of Mount Hope from there to the freeway interchange is not. So we would need to amend that to allow basically them to exit there.
Yeah, but he said to go east.
I think he's talking about if we didn't amend the truck ordinance, then they could only exit the east side of the site. This is kind of confusing. This is the north side of the site here.
Oh, if they didn't amend. Right.
Yeah, if we didn't amend it,
Oh,
we
okay.
we intend to amend it.
Okay.
So that way
In this case, they would be going west.
they would, yeah, they
put
would,
that-
they would enter from the east side of the site and then they would exit south and then go west towards the freeway. That is correct.
Go.
They would exit so the exit, this is the south side of the site here. They would
Right.
exit.
You have
an aerial map?
And they would be going right.
Yep, so yeah, there's, so they would enter here. And then exit here, and so basically this section of Old Lansing is not designated a truck route, and then basically the Mount Hope east of the freeway is not designated a truck route, so that'll be what we need to amend the ordinance to change.
So they could take either Mount Hope or they could take Lansing Road.
Yes, correct.
Okay, you say Mount Hope is not?
Right, so Mount Hope, west of the freeway is designated as a truck route, but Mount Hope east of the freeway isn't, so we would just basically change it to probably just to say Mount Hope Highway, probably.
But there's a truck repair place already. That exits on the Mount Hope. What, you have it in the picture there.
Where's that, like,
No,
Truck sales
yeah, so
further down.
no. Back east,
back east, okay,
right on that triangle,
okay.
that building right there.
Is that a truck repair?
Truck repair.
Right at the triangle of Mount Hope and
It's right.
Lansing Road.
I,
It is. We approved it once before.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just wondering how they're doing that if it's not approved.
oh,
I won't
yeah,
worry
no,
about
yeah,
that.
it's possible that was missed. I would have to look into that if they were at, because yeah, that section of Mount Hope isn't technically a truck route. That is,
Okay,
yeah, well,
okay.
oh, good catch.
Two birds with one stone.
Is the applicant here?
Yes, so if you have any questions, yeah.
The applicant wants to add to what's been said here tonight. Apparently not. Any questions of the applicant? Okay,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to
Mr. McConnell,
propose an amendment to the motion.
go ahead.
That the exit hours on Old Lansing Road be restricted to before 3 o'clock or after 6 p.m. because that's when all that traffic.
Yeah, you've got traffic comes up, turns off from Waverly on the Old Lansing Road, and then you also got traffic on Mount Hope that comes across and meets at
Right.
Old Lansing Road and goes south on Waverly.
Yeah, there's different times of day when it's heavy though. The traffic,
After 2 o'clock. That's when I've encountered it.
yeah. Yeah, by 6 o'clock, it's done. You've encountered it by 2. I thought it was pretty much by 3 o'clock, but
Well, I think a lot of the factories over there, some of the factories over there get out at 2.
Well, we need to, we're gonna go on record, we need to make it accurate. I would amend that to make it 2 o'clock then. I need to repeat that.
Nope, I got it.
Yeah, you have to consider though, that's a 4-hour window that they won't be able to make those movements. And is that a reasonable restriction?
Trying to deal with the heavy traffic area in
Sure,
that area.
yeah.
I don't know the exact time,
What, Matt,
and I'm certainly willing to cut down that window.
the peak hour in the traffic study, what does that say that is? That at least something we can nail our, hang our hats on a documented peak hour.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Meadow,
just a question for staff. I understand what we're looking at here and I understand the ramifications of it. My question would be, is that an arbitrary or a capricious activity? I mean, have we limited the activities of a business on site outside of a parameter set within the township board? And two, based on the plan set or the traffic impact study that was provided, it doesn't seem to impact or provide anything that talks about an impact to traffic at any point and no significant impact.
Yes.
So arbitrary and capricious, so if we can identify a peak hour or something. I think that would be sufficient to make the stipulation. And yeah, the commission does have the authority to limit the hours of operation of any special land use. In this case, you're just simply limiting the access point or the restricting, actually you're restricting ingress and egress just those hours. So that's just a component of the operation, not the entire operation. So you have the authority to do that. Have we done that in the past? Not recently, but in my 38 years here, there have been a few instances where operational hours have been set by the planning commission to avoid, impacts late in the evening for drive-throughs and things like that adjacent to residential areas. So there have been instances where they've done that, and that it is permissible.
So we do have past practice.
We don't have information on the peak hours based on.
I'm trying to find out what.
nothing in the study that shows the amount of traffic at peak.
I'm trying to find what the hour, peak.
It's odd hours because it's not exactly traditional work time to and from hours.
Right. I mean, the factories do tend to, get out around 3 o'clock in this vicinity. So, that would be 3 to 6, like Mr. McConnell originally proposed, I think would be a reasonable window.
I would be willing to revise that based on what the traffic study says.
So, yeah, I think
If it says 2 to 4, that's fine.
so, yeah, I think the peak traffic is 5 to 6 a.m. is the 20 in and out, and then from between 3 and 6 p.m. is 5 in and 10 out.
3 and 5.
Between 3 and 6, it's 5 in and 10 out. So be 5 in on Waverly and 10 out in that 3-hour period.
3 to 6 a.m.
PM. Between 5 and 6 a.m. it'd be 20 in and out, and then between 3 and 6 p.m. it'd be 5 in and 10 out.
With a number of vehicles in that short period, in that period of time, I guess I would wonder whether that would be necessary to have a stipulation on the hours.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Boudry.
My concern is that when you restrict the hours, you actually may cause congestion. Because the hours of operation, that means we got to get all these trucks in at a narrower time span. So when I was looking at the hours of operation, I thought, well, it's, what is it, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.?
I missed, it's 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Yep, but yeah, basically.
Okay. Living in that area, kind of, you can hear the traffic at like 7 o'clock. It starts on the freeway and Waverly. And I thought at first that I don't know if I would want that early and that late in the day to have traffic. But then I started thinking, well, it would be an advantage that you could get the vehicles in earlier and out later, lessening the congestion. It remains to be seen, you know, how they operate their business and what their trucker's schedule is.
Mhm.
But I've revised my thinking that maybe longer hours lessens the congestion.
Right, so yeah, especially since.
Well, they have long hours.
Right, and then, yeah,
Just restricting some of those.
you were more concerned about the PM peak hours, which was a little bit more
Yeah.
dispersed and, yeah,
Because the incoming doesn't really create the same prices.
right.
I'm just trying to think in terms of.
Oh, no, yeah, you're trying to-
Accidents, I'm not.
Yeah.
So I guess the problem is not having complete accurate information on the traffic peak hours. Is there a way that we can make it without specifying the hours until the traffic study, till peak hours are determined?
So, yeah, the peak hours are between 5 and 6 a.m. is the AM peak hour, and then 3 to 6 p.m. is the PM peak
Oh,
hour.
those are the peak
Yeah,
hours.
so those are the peak hours. So,
Oh, okay.
so the PM is a lot less. So in the morning is 20 in, 20 out, and then at night it was,
Okay,
and then the traffic study backs up what you're saying, where the one intersection is a slightly more backed up in the evening than in the morning. So you know, your assessment is correct. But the applicant happens to have lesser hours or lesser traffic at that point.
Yeah,
okay.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Kozinski.
I guess I would just note that when they exit the facility, regardless of whether they go right or left out of the facility onto Old Lansing Road, anybody going to the right would very shortly turn on to Mount Hope.
Mhm.
Anybody going to the left would go on to Waverly. I would note that both of those are signalized intersections that give us control and more safety at those primary intersections. It's just that very short piece of Old Lansing that.
Where Old Lansing is, Mount Hope is a danger intersection, yeah. It's not signalized, it's a stop sign.
Right, that's a stop sign there, yeah.
I guess I would make the motion to include the hours of 3 to 5. That traffic, from my experience, is always thinned out by that time.
3 to 5 or 3 to 6, Mr. McCow?
I said 3 to 5.
3 to 5, okay.
Is there a second on that?
There's no second, it dies.
With no second, what do we do here?
Motion dies.
Yeah.
No second.
You can make an alternative motion. Is it, you know, if it maybe some discussion as to whether the recommended motion without Mr. McConnell's amendment would be favorable. Received.
Do we want to, does somebody want to make a motion irrespective of the amendment? So let's, you just table it.
The original motion,
Pardon?
somebody make a motion on the original motion, is that what?
That's
you're-
why I was asking if it was gonna, who would like to make the motion without the amendment.
Make it so we can vote on it. Find it.
On page 2.
Page 2.
Go back.
So you're looking for
Ah, okay.
a motion on the original motion?
Correct.
The other motion is dead. So, so that we can vote on it and get it out of here. I move that the Delta Township Planning Commission recommend approval to the Township Board of the special land use permit for a vehicle repair facility in case number 11-22-08 for the following reasons, of which there are 2, with the following stipulations, of which there are 3.
Support.
Moved by Mr. McConnell, supported by Mr. Kozeski, that we approve the this project. This is a roll call vote.
I guess it is, okay. Meadow,
Support.
Schweitzer,
Support.
absent. Kaczynski,
Support.
Woodry,
Support.
McConnell opposes. Elzinga
Support.
and is absent, motion carries.
Matt,
I can get you on the, so the board, the township board will have the final vote. I can get you on next Monday night if that's amenable, or if not, I can get with you about a different date. Okay, cool. All right, sounds good. So I'll send you an email. Recommend approval to the township board for the, I believe it's the 3rd of April meeting.
Correct.
Yep, 3rd of April.
okay, public hearings. Mr. McConnell, please.
Back to my pages again. Okay, we have case number 101-23-505. At this hearing, the following described 59-acre parcel of land located at the southwest corner of M43 and Broadbent Road will be considered for rezoning from AG2 agricultural/residential to RC moderate density residential.
Here, you want to have both of them or at one time or separately?
I think for the purposes of the hearing and discussion, we should handle the companion SLU as well.
Okay,
Okay, which is case number 01-23-06. At this hearing, the following described 59-acre parcel of land located at the southwest corner of M43 and Broadbent Road will be considered for a special land use permit for a planned unit development for a 303 unit apartment project.
Mr. Bose.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You see on the screen in front of you and behind you, a rendition of the proposed development in this case. You're looking at Broadbent Road and let's just make it a full screen. Looking at Broadbent Road and Saginaw Highway. So this direction that the cursor is going through, the laser pointer, is north. This is the intersection of Broadbent and Saginaw here. The subject parcel has a gross acreage of about 76 acres. And a net acreage, once you meet the requirements of zoning ordinance in terms of what's buildable, it's about 58 acres, I think, 59 acres. What's being proposed first is a rezoning of the parcel from AG2, that's agricultural residential, to an RC moderate density residential zoning classification. RC is consistent with what the comprehensive plan recommends for this area of the township. And the plan also recommends or recognizes, is probably a better word, that low density residential land use pattern can consist of attached units. In this case, the SLU is for a planned unit development, which allows attached units or a single building to have 6 attached units. And so this is a variety ranging from 2 to 6 units dispersed throughout the site. You'll see a number of locations. This is a large pond that exists in the site currently. That's attached to a wetland area and another pond area that's to the south of the site. To the west, adjacent to the subject parcel, is Fox Ridge subdivision. You see to the north, so we have a few single family residences along Saginaw Highway. To the east, across Broadbent Road, you have the Barrington Woods condos in this area, and you have a mixed retail use that's at the consisting of Sportsman's Warehouse, Menards area to the further to the east, and then you have a commercial, the Magaldi Retail Center at this corner. Then you have again commercial at the corner, would be the northeast corner of Saginaw and Broadbent. A total plus or minus 300 units are proposed to achieve that density. That's why we need the planned unit development. So the PUD is necessary for the attached units in an RC district and the density that the developer wishes to achieve. So in this case, the built out density as proposed, I think, is 5.12 units per acre. And that's in the developer, in order to achieve that density, has to provide common open space areas on the development. And then there's a number of other amenities that are being provided: clubhouse and pool, dog parks, and other amenities for the residents of the township. They're going to be attached garages. Matt, can you show me a floor plan?
Sir. Just like this floor plan you're talking about?
Yeah, we had a colored one too.
Oh, the colored one, yeah, the colored ones. Or that's there's the rendering.
So this is a rendering of the proposed units. This looks like a 4-unit building. So you'll have 1 story on the end and then 2 stories in the center units. All have attached garages. Somewhat similar, I suppose, to Redwood, but a little bit architecturally, call it enhanced. So let's go back to the site plan, please. So the review and approval process that's stated in the staff report, we're here at the public hearing stage at this point. Planning Commission will take public comments. Their action will be a recommendation, if they take one tonight, to the Township Board, who will have a final decision. There are a couple of procedural steps in there where no decisions are being made, but we have to meet the requirements of state law in order to change an ordinance, and that's what a rezoning is changing the ordinance. And so in this case, the rezoning, again, as I stated, from agricultural residential to a moderate density residential. Surrounding zoning in this case, the neighbors down here to the west, that's RB, low density residential district. So an RC and an RB zoning is consistent with the plan calls out, comprehensive plan calls out in terms of what's low density residential. So both of those classifications are consistent with the plan's definition of low density residential. The Barrington Woods condos are RM, multifamily residential. And of course, you've got commercial to the east where the Menards area and Magaldi retail is. And then still on the corner, there's going to be a little bit of AG2 agricultural residential left over for existing residents. And then across the road, you have again, single family RB residential. So kind of a mixed residential pattern predominant in the area. And again, the development would comply with the comprehensive plan recommendations in terms of how it's to be developed in the future. The plan also calls out various or variety of residential options being provided to township residents. So this is not your typical single family subdivision, of course, it's apartments, but it's a little different in that they're a mixture of single and story and two-story with attached garages. Redwood would be the only example we have of that. Redwood does not have two-story units. Public utilities, we should spend some time on that. There is public water available to the development. So there shouldn't be any issues with regard to providing public water service to development for both domestic and fire protection. The layout, of course, we do have a conceptual utility plan, but until we get to the site plan review process where we have fully detailed civil engineer drawings, again, that only serves as a concept. The township engineer has indicated that yes, it can be served. Sanitary sewer service, that's another issue. In general, all the piping is available to serve that, but we have some capacity issues downstream. There are two options to send the effluent from this development to the wastewater treatment plant on Willow Highway. That is taking it through the marketplace lift station and then across Saginaw Highway and then across the freeway. That can be done, but another pipe has to be installed across the freeway to get that there. The other option is going to the Willow lift station to the north and then down Willow to the wastewater treatment plant. The Willow lift station has some capacity issues with regard to pumping. So additional pumps may have to be added to, again, accommodate for the flows being added to the system from this proposed development. Both are possible. The engineers asked our consultant to do a study to see which would be most economical, most feasible, and most bang for the buck, essentially, in terms of providing service here. The developer has been made aware of that. He is receptive of paying a share of the cost of that, along with benefiting property owners. This isn't the only development that we have that wants to come forward. And so the cost of whatever improvements are necessary to get the effluent down to the sanitary or the wastewater treatment plant will be borne by these new developments. And so we'll have to figure out how that's going to be. The costs are going to be distributed among the benefiting property owners. So, and the board has been made aware of the capacity issues, and they've asked the engineer to move forward with this study to figure out what the best way to go. So one of the stipulations that I've recommended is that construction not be commenced until we have someone under contract to make those improvements to serve the development. Storm drainage, this is the Hazen drain, I believe. And that comes in at the, I believe it's the northwest corner of the site. So you've got wetland areas, existing ponds, proposed detention. And so there is a public outlet for all these areas. And when we get to the site plan review process and fully engineered drawings, then the drain commissioner will review these plans, or the drain commissioner's consultant will, and advise what's necessary in terms of infrastructure to get to basically meter the water from the site, the runoff from the site into the public drain. Our soil survey for Eaton County indicates that there's basically everywhere in Delta Township we have wet soils, and there may be limitations of building. There are no basements associated with the development, but soil borings will be necessary to find any limitations on site and what mitigation would need to be employed in order to serve the development. You see a number of woodland areas on the site, wetland areas. Natural features inventory is required at site plan review. And so it looks like most of those will be preserved where they can be in terms of the concept plan, but we'll know more again at the site plan review process. And they do have to provide an element of common open space area because this is a PUD. So the minimum amount is 15% of the site has to be common open space. More open space is required in order to achieve higher densities. So at this point, they're at least 15%, probably more. And what they're asking for in terms of total number of units will be less than the permitted density at the lowest amount, 15%. So at this point, they would be in compliance, it appears, with our common open space areas requirement and in order to achieve the density that they wish on the site. So I believe this plan shows 303 units. They qualify for 328. Access is off of a driveway on Saginaw Highway and one on Broadbent Road. There is a traffic impact study included in your report. The Saginaw Highway corridor, that's under the jurisdiction of the Michigan Department of Transportation. Broadbent Road is under the jurisdiction of the Eaton County Road Commission. There is some correspondence from residents of Barrington Woods worried about the alignment of the Broadbent Road across from their road. That's an issue for the Eaton County Road Commission. The commission here has no authority to change that. The Eaton County Road Commission has sole authority for that access point. Even if you were to register concerns about that point, we can forward those to the Road Commission. The Road Commission has been provided with a copy of the study. I have spoken to the county engineer at the Road Commission, and it's their practice to align driveways in order to avoid locking left turns and other dangerous turning movements. So at this point, the Road Commission sees no problems with the alignment of those driveways. In terms of roads improvements, if you look at the traffic study, there are some conclusions made. Maybe some XL and decel tapers at both entrances. Again, one's responsibility MDOT, one's responsibility of ECRC, and then maybe some timing changes to the signal at Broadbent and Saginaw. Again, those signal timing changes are MDOT issues, and when they get the full set of site plans, they'll look at that. I should note that there is a plan in the works at MDOT to do a boulevard section for Saginaw Highway, basically a segment from Canal to probably around the west property line of this site. And we were looking anywhere between 2026 and 2028 in terms of having fully engineered plans and commencement of the project. There are funds available for the project for that segment. They're also looking at the balance of Saginaw Highway all the way to Waverly, but apparently there isn't enough money in the pot to consider that yet. But they do have money, and they are committed apparently to doing that boulevard section, at least for that small segment, mile or so of Saginaw Highway. So any changes to Saginaw Highway to accommodate this driveway would be temporary, essentially, because they'd have to all be redone when the boulevard is installed. I don't know if extra right-of-way needs to be granted to MDOT for the boulevard cross section. ECRC is asking for 17 feet of additional right-of-way for Broadbent Road for future road improvements there. You may changing it to a 3-lane cross section through there at least. Stay tuned on that. But again, I haven't heard anything from MDOT at this point with regard to the driveway location here and whether or not they'll have to again install tapers for that ingress egress point. Non-motorized transportation is an issue. There is a general routing that's proposed in the non-motorized transportation plan, basically from Marketplace Boulevard all the way to Upton. We hope to find a routing through the site, east and west, maybe along the wetland, pond area, wooded area to the southern portion of the site. And then we're also looking at as an alternative, if that's not possible without disturbing wetlands and natural areas, a routing 10-foot shared use pathway along the Broadbent Road frontage all the way to Saginaw, and then Saginaw all the way to the western property edge. So we want, again, it's important to get westerly with our non-motorized transportation facilities. So the township engineer is looking at those options, and then there's a stipulation in my recommendation talks about as per the engineer's recommendation. So that would be you'd see that routing in the finals or the during site plan review. So the stipulation is general, but the actual construction drawings would be presented in site plan set. I've reviewed all the criteria in the zoning ordinance contained for rezonings and special land use permit. It's the general criteria for compatibility with what's already there. In terms of development, again, I know it's a mixed use development pattern, commercial, multifamily with Barrington Woods, single family with Fox Ridge subdivision. And so this would appear to be another element of that mixed use pattern that already exists in the area. Again, still consistent with what the comprehensive plan recommends. See no negative impacts proposed by the development. Yes, it'll look different. Yes, there'll be more traffic than there is now. But again, the plan doesn't recognize that this would stay in an undeveloped state for in perpetuity. Again, it does recognize that low density residential development pattern is desirable for this parcel. At this point, so I'll entertain questions of the commission. We do have a group of representatives from developers on hand to answer any questions. And we'll open it up to the pleasure of the board or the commission.
Any questions of staff? Hearing none, developer like to come forward, please. State your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Good evening. Pardon me if I can just intervene here. I failed to mention the other correspondence from the Burgers. You've all been provided with that, so so the Burgers are here to answer that. So I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is Jack Knowles. I represent Broadbent Development. My address is 3420 Woodlea. That's WOODLEA Drive, Ann Arbor 48103. I'm here tonight with a team of players. We have Eric Iverson with PEA. They're civil engineering and survey consultant on the project. Lee Burgess, who is our traffic consultant. She's with RS Engineering. Eric Ladaz is our legal counsel. And we have two of the partners, Joe and Francis Bogie, in our group tonight. So hopefully we can answer whatever questions you may have when we get to them. I appreciate having an opportunity to talk to you. What I'd like to do is if we could bring up C5, Matt, thank you. So sorry, Gary gave a great overview of the property. And I don't want to reiterate too much of what he's already gone over. There you go. There you go. So But I would like to just give a little more description about the property itself and the characteristics of it. And I think that will help sort of play into other matters tonight. Again, it's 75 acres in size. It's 5 acres short of a full half section. That northeast corner is excluded from this. There's existing residences in that corner currently, which will remain for the near future at least. The dimensions of the property are approximately 1,320 feet wide by 2,620 feet north-south. There's a central corridor of wetland and open water that starts at the very south boundary and meanders up through the middle of the site and gets into another water body right in the middle of the site. And then there's a sort of an informal drainage way that continues north to another small wetland right at the where that first the hard to describe. I use this that
The buttons on the side, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Turn itself off.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, the first residence on the most westerly part of that 5 acres. There's a wetland right at that corner where all the water drains, and then it comes west, just a few hundred feet or a couple hundred feet south of the northwest corner of our property. That is the stormwater outlet for the entire site, really. Most of the site drains toward the middle, drains to the existing ponds and wetland system. That entire system, with the exception of where we're going to have road crossings, is going to be preserved. So that will go pretty much untouched and will remain in its existing state. Gary gave a very thorough explanation of the zoning, the special land use, and the PUD criteria. His report is very thorough. I don't want to reiterate all that information. I will say we agree with it. We supported additional supporting documentation, particularly for the special land use, which mirrors much of what he has said. We believe that the zoning is appropriate. It's in accordance with the comp plan, that the special land use and the PUD combined also work hand in hand with that and are in agreement with the comp plan. So we are prepared to answer any questions that you may have or that the public may have. At this time, I would suggest maybe we don't get too deep into the site plan in any great detail. I am, if we want to after this, if you want to talk about it, have any specific questions about it, I'm glad to try and answer them. But since it's really not part of the rezoning or special land use process, I thought maybe we should put that off till after that. But it's your call. So.
Okay. We'll hold off on the site plan portion for now.
Okay.
Any questions of the applicant? Staff from the commission? Mr. Woodry.
Mr. Knowles, the ponds and the projected detention pond.
Yeah.
Okay. In the best of your knowledge, what are we looking at in is the capacity of them taking in stormwater? Is there any extra capacity? Or they?
Yeah. We have met with all the reviewing jurisdictions. So we've met with MDOT. We've met with the Drain Commission. We've met with the Road Commission. We've met with the Township engineering and planning staff. So the meeting with Eagle is letting us store within the existing wetlands. So there is capacity there. We are going to have some infiltration trenches or drains on the site also to help with that. But generally, we will be using the existing systems for detention capacity.
Okay. I'm in the bank's drainage system, okay?
Mhm.
And I've been brought up to speed on drains.
Sure.
Okay, and the ponds, the detention pond that you're proposing over there are probably the cheapest way to go to handle stormwater.
Mhm.
Okay, so I like what I'm seeing there, and having excess capacity built in also helps.
Yeah, so as you know, most likely, the outlet is a controlled outlet. We can only discharge at a certain rate. That our discharge point is an existing county drain. There will be some offsite improvements or within the drain easement to help effectuate what we want to do. But it's all, we've again coordinating that with the county drain commission.
Okay, what's your proposed density? How many
It's
per acre?
it's 5.1, I believe.
Okay, 5.1.
Yeah, 5.12.
Okay.
To be precise, I guess.
Yeah, my subdivision is I think 3, something like that. So, okay, thank you.
Sure.
In regards to the detention pond on the north end of the property there, will that the work done on that alleviate the problem that the first residence there that's got basically a pond in his front yard?
Most likely not. Typically, we can't drain on other people's property. And unless it is the natural drainage way to come onto our property, they can't drain into our property. So if the natural drainage route is toward us, then we would have to accommodate that. But if it isn't, then we would not typically.
All right. Any other questions of the applicant? All right, this is a public hearing, so if anyone in the audience wishes to speak, please step forward, name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Betsy Berger and I live at 7727 Barsfield Lane, lot 13 that butts up to the west side of the proposed apartments that are going to come in here. Again, as I said, my name is Betsy Berger and my husband and Norm and I live on lot 13 in Foxford subdivision. Our east property line abuts the west property line of the proposed Avenue Apartments at Delta project. While we have already submitted a letter and photos of our property for the meeting for tonight's, to the meeting packet for tonight's meeting, I would like to take a few minutes to speak about the apartment units proposed for construction directly behind our home. My husband and I have lived in Delta Township for over 37 years. 18 years ago, we had the opportunity to build a new home, and instead of leaving Delta Township, we chose to stay in Delta Township. Approximately 26 years ago, my husband's church, which is also located in Delta Township, was outgrowing its building and needed to expand. Again, rather than move to a different location, the church chose to stay in Delta Township so we could continue to serve the residents of this township. My husband and I have 2 adult sons, and even before they were born, my husband coached kids in Delta Township Youth Soccer League. When people ask me where I live, my address says Grand Ledge, but I proudly say that I'm from Delta Township. Why am I telling you all this? Because I want the Planning Commission to know that we are proud to be residents of Delta Township and to call this community our home. In the 37 years that we have been in Delta Township, we have seen and have been supportive of the growth the township has experienced. While I'm not looking forward to having 303 apartment complexes behind my house, we understand the growing need for residential areas as businesses like the Amazon Distribution Center and Altium Battery are locating here. We are not here necessarily tonight to oppose the rezoning and the special land use permit for a planned unit development. Rather, we are here tonight to express our concerns with the size and locations of the proposed apartment units being proposed for directly behind our home. As stated in our submitted letter, the largest apartment complex on the preliminary conceptual plans are located directly behind our home. This is very concerning to us. We are people that use our backyard regularly. As soon as the weather is nice, we're eating most of our meals on our deck or enjoying a fire in the evening. As you saw in the 5 pictures that were submitted in the letter that I submitted to you earlier, we have a wide open view of the property directly to the west of us. Based on the preliminary conceptual plans, as well as the proposed apartment designs, we'd be looking at continuous units that are anywhere between 58 to 61 yards long with over 54 windows looking into our backyard. While the preliminary concept plans have drawings of evergreens along the shared property line, we're asking that when the planning commission starts to hold site planning meetings, they consider the request that we submitted regarding the property along the shared property line, that the units are set back a minimum of 50 feet off of the shared property line, that there are only 1-story units behind our home, not 2, that no unit is longer than 3 continuous units. Right now, it's proposed that there are 5 or 6 continuous units with 20 feet between each unit, that the trees and vegetation in the existing tree line, which we have maintained for over 18 years, remain as is, that a 5-foot tall berm with 8-foot tall evergreens are created along the entire length of the shared property line, as well as extending north and south of the property line. That proper drainage is placed along the property line to ensure that standing water does not accumulate on our property, because there is a lot of standing water other than those ponds in that property. In closing, we have requested to be notified by email when the site plans are on the planning commission's agenda. I appreciate the planning commission giving me the opportunity to speak tonight and look forward to ongoing discussion with the township so this project can be a win-win situation for all involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak, please?
Got a couple questions. Planning Commission, Tom Krasnowski.
Just get to the,
Tom Krasnowski, 7908 East Saginaw Highway. Got a little lake in my front yard currently. My question is kind of along the same lines. There's basically, we're on the adjoining property. My mother-in-law's on the other adjoining property. Looks like looking out our back window, we're gonna see 2-story apartment complex. What is the standard setback rule for that property, being that it's changed from ag to, when I think I was required to have, I think it's 3 acres, 2 or 3 acres, maybe, to build. Is it still 12 foot or is there a larger setback for that type of development?
So in this case, the PUD, I believe the ordinance requires 40 feet minimum
40 feet from the property line?
from the periphery of the site. Yeah.
So 40-foot setback from,
In most cases, the concept plan shows a distance of 50 feet.
okay. On all, where it butts to the other property, 50 feet. Okay. And in talking about the drainage, that hasn't been my finding about the drainage from the existing waterways. That water runs to the west from the small wetland that it abuts to our property. And it's currently flooded right now. And I know this isn't a drain commission meeting, but that currently floods. The county drain pickup is right over there. To the left where your arrow is, right there, and that's consistently flooded currently. I imagine, like I say, that's probably more of an issue for the county drain commission, but there's certainly not any more capacity for water there. That's about all the questions. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mike Beck. I'm over at 312 Barrington Circle. I'm in part of the condominium complex across the street. Gary kind of cut us off at the knees here with the road commission, because our biggest concern is that access going directly into our private drive. This is a drive that we have to maintain, we have to repair, we have to refinish, we do everything on it. And yet we have issues now with people running through there to get the Delta Market Street. That's a cutoff through them. I'm really concerned over the traffic over this. Currently, after living there, I try to avoid as much as I can Saginaw in the early morning between 7 and 8 o'clock. It is bumper to bumper traffic all the way back past Broadbent. Every weekdays trying to get on the highway, trying to get through there, and it is just jammed. I'm really concerned of what was mentioned about some boulevard going down there. I'm not so sure that's going to solve the problem.
but also the traffic on Broadbent. Broadbent is only a 2-lane road with no shoulder and a drainage ditch on either side. It's not really built, in my opinion, for the excess capacity that's going to be on it now, especially with the development going on here over to BJ's, all the rentals, all the townhouses that's proposed for that property that's already been approved. Do we really need more? I guess is one of my questions having that. But I moved to this area over from Okemos about 6 years ago. The reason why I came here was really because I can walk out the north side of the condos and I've got everything at my access there. I've got restaurants, I've got hardware, I've got everything. Then I go out the other side on the west side and I got nice farmland. It really makes for a good economy of going back and forth. That is an awful low site. That's very wet. That's why they're not doing anything to it, because I don't think they can really build on it because of all the wetlands on there. It's currently farmland. And again, there's another 60 acres of farmland going to be gone. It's actively being farmed now, and actually it's actually being hunted. There's a hunter that goes there on some geese in the fall. It's a beautiful piece of property, quite frankly, and going to be, in my opinion, destroyed by another rental townhouse coming in here and all those things. But we've actually taken pictures, my wife and I, of eagles that are over there at that site. I've seen eagles, sandhill cranes, ducks, geese, all sorts of waterfowl are over there. But it's just the traffic, the excess noise, more light pollution. It's just really, is that really what you want to have here? And I know it's a tough call that you want to have everything here, but I just am against the whole process. I'm against the whole site. I think there's just so many other issues developing from that. You're going to have more drainage issues when they start putting this stuff in. It's just inevitable. You're going to have sanitation issues from what you're talking about right here, trying to get things out of there. To me, I see an awful lot of negatives and very few positives, but appreciate your time. Thank you.
Say you connect, your condos connect to Marketplace?
Delta Market.
Okay.
There's the parallels along Menards, that access point there. That's over there by Menards. That's what people use for a shortcut. Even though it's a private road, evidently the county road commission doesn't recognize that as a private road, I guess, because they insist on putting that there. I've already talked to them. It's like talking to a brick wall. Their response to us, because they're going to have it's proposed that the rental properties over there have a gate to go in. And I said, you're going to force us to have a gate just to stop people from cutting through there. We've already priced out a gate. It's $70,000 for us to gate both sides of that property. So I mentioned that to Eaton County, and Matt told me, he goes, well, don't put electricity on it. Well, so how are we got to get out of the car and, take a chain link fence and get that open? He goes, well, yeah. I'm going, average age of our group there it's not 55 or older, but we're in the 70s. If you look at our average age, we're not going to, it just isn't feasible, but that's the response that we get from the road commission, which is like banging your head against the wall. It's just not going to happen. I think they could easily put another entrance a little farther north. And it's like they haven't gone to their real site plan yet, so it's doable on their end. It'd be nice if they would do that, but I'm not sure the road commission is going to buy it. They keep saying safety, but I said it's a private road. I said you're creating more of a safety hazard when people see that as far as coming through. When traffic gets backed up on Saginaw, nose to nose, all the way back there. They're going to come out of there and they're going to know it's there, and they're going to, well, I can cut down here, go down Delta Market and catch one of those lights just before the highway, So they're going to be whipping through there. And that's going to cause a problem for us. Number one, we got to maintain the road. But number two, from a safety aspect, we got a lot of people that walk, and they walk around there all the time.
Thank you.
I just,
Thank you.
anyway, Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Matt,
Mr. Woodard?
I'm gonna ask a question of staff. Since that subdivision has private roads, there's really no reason why they can't block that off. That stub. They have control over the road.
Well, the original plan for the subdivision, the reason that's there is because of the requirement of the fire chief to have a secondary access. So
Two entrances, two exits.
So if something were to happen on Broadbent Road or Huntington Drive were blocked, then the chief and his crew could still get in via the back door, let's call it. So that's why it's there.
So it's a fire issue.
It's a fire issue. I mean, there's no reason that can't be gated if the fire department were provided with a key or a card or whatever to the gate. But again, I'm not sure of the cost of something like that.
This isn't a road commission issue. This is more of a
So,
fire safety issue.
so the connection to Menards is a fire safety issue.
I didn't even know that existed. I don't cut through there. Okay, thank you, Gary.
Proceed, please.
Yep, so my name is Patty Toth and I live in the Barrington Woods condos as well. I'm in unit 245. So I've been in Delta Township since 1995. And probably for the same reason that Mike just brought up, Grand Ledge is kind of a hidden gem. You know, we've got a lower tax base here. You know, the water is outstanding here. It's just a nice area to live. So I'm in real estate. I'm a real estate agent. And so I service Grand Ledge, I service Lansing, I service all suburbs. I don't get any inquiries for rentals in Grand Ledge. Everybody is looking for housing. You know, we've got a lot of new buildings that are going in from, you know, Amazon is here. I mean, all of those buildings are there. People want neighborhood stabilization. They want to move into a home. They want to have someplace that's called their own. They don't want apartments. Apartment rent is skyrocketed right now. There's no inventory. That's why the housing prices are escalating like they have been. So, and also like Mike said, you know, not to mention all the traffic, you know, potential water issues, all of that. You know, one thing that I would ask would be, is there any thought to, instead of apartment buildings, to do condos or even a housing subdivision? You know, there's not going to be the influx of, you know, 300 plus units. You're going to provide more neighborhood stabilization by getting housing in there instead of rentals. We've already got a lot of rentals already on this side, not to mention the Willow Road condos, not to mention those new ones that are just going up on the north side of 96, or excuse me, on the east side of 96. You know, we've got all those rentals that are out off of M100. You know, those are all just being constructed. I don't think there's a lack of rentals. I think there's a lack of inventory, housing inventory. To me, that's really, if we're going to develop that land, which I'm in agreement with Mike, I mean, it's a beautiful piece of property. I mean, sorry for our farmers because we keep chasing them out. But if we have to construct on it, I would just ask that you consider other options besides a rental community.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Hello, I am Teresa Cady. I live at 8716 Huntington Drive. I'm actually the very first condo at Barrington Woods. So my condo is actually, my home's closest to this property there. So my one window that I have on the west side, actually with my bay window is the one that would face this whole development, that property. currently, you know, like Mike had said, it is a beautiful piece of property and to see it, I understand what Delta's doing, wanting to bring in more housing. I think that Patty made great points on bringing in residential instead of apartments, something like that to be considered. I had other questions, but Gary did a great job and he answered a lot of the questions I had in your presentation. So thank you. You did address a lot of what I had on my list here. But one of the things I can say is at my condo there, you know, I have a deck. I believe you said all the units were going to be 40 feet off of the property line, that the ones that are proposed, but then they have a deck. So that deck, I don't know if that deck would then bring them like 30 feet from the property line or how exactly that will work for their deck too, if it's just the buildings, the 40 feet or how that would work, if that brings them closer. With broadband there, one of the things that you had said, which I wasn't quite sure what it meant, was the 17 feet. If they're expanding that, is it what they're going to do is expand broadband?
So at some point, the road commission is proposing to widen Broadbent Road to have a center lane for its entire length from Saginaw down to St. Joe Highway.
Okay, so then
And
what
so they
take,
need more room to do that.
okay,
And so this property then will be further encumbered because they're going to take, the road commission is going to take 17 feet that this property has along Broadbent Road currently, and then that's going to be dedicated right away for the road.
okay.
And so they're losing 17 feet of their property along the entire frontage of Broadbent.
Okay, so just for clarification then, for everybody on the west side of Broadbent, they lose 17 feet, or is it, how would that work when they expand this road?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't understand exactly how that would work,
On the
so,
west side, that's what the road commission is requiring, yes. So they're gonna lose 17 feet. It's gonna be that line that's shown there, that's yellow, will be
Okay.
17 feet further to the west.
okay, okay,
And so that's where the setback begins, at the new line.
okay. So the 17 feet and then the setback of the 40 or 50
Correct.
feet from there.
Correct.
Okay, that was one of the questions that popped up when you were speaking. Thank you very much for clarifying that for me. So then there will be a turn lane for us in that neighborhood and for those that would possibly be turning in then that
Eventually,
center.
yeah. I
Okay.
don't know when that project would be scheduled for construction. It's probably gonna depend on, so we compete in the region. This is more information you want to know, for federal funding for these road projects.
Okay,
And so, you know, we submit the road commission submits the project for the widening that goes into the list of projects, and then, you know,
they do, yeah,
they prioritize them based on compared to all the projects in the pot, and
right.
sometimes we get money, sometimes we don't. So eventually it's going to happen. I don't know when.
Okay, okay. So currently, you know, people will turn from St. Joe onto Broadbent or even from Saginaw onto Broadbent, and the speeds going up and down there are quite fast because there's hardly no stopping. So they've got that whole way just to speed through there. And we have a couple cars, because I sit out on my back deck there and, you know, they especially in the summertime ramp it up and pair up next to each other and, you know, speed down. But I know that's not really a concern of your guys's, but we have a lot of traffic that goes up and down that road currently. And, you know, our concern is the increased flow of traffic coming into there that comes down to where we're at. Like Mike had said, you know, the average age is up there a little bit higher in our community. It is more of a retiree community without being labeled a retiree community. And we have a lot that pull in and out of there that use Broadbent. And now there's a lot of times during certain traffic times in the morning and in the afternoon where you can sit there and just wait for cars to go by and go by and go by. Finally, we, you know, speed on up and get out of there. But I know once you get to that light at Saginaw, that backs up a lot. We'll be backed up and sometimes we'll sit through that light 2 or 3 times. You know, and I think that's what you had said was MDOT would be changing that light, doing a thing probably.
That's one of the recommendations of the traffic study, to change the signal timing there. Yes.
Okay, okay. And then one of my questions is the time frame for, I understand there's a traffic study that was done. But what's the time frame for like the next steps after like tonight? Is it like, will a site plan, will that come into play like in the next couple of weeks, or is that like a couple months out? How does that normally play?
Well, that's up to the developer. So if they make it successfully beyond the planning commission and the township board in terms of approval of the rezoning and the special land use permit, it's how, first of all, you know, we have to decide where the sanitary sewer effluent is going, which way.
Right.
So that has to be determined. Then once that's determined, then they have to submit a set of drawings that are fully engineered, construction ready drawings. So how long is it going to take the developer to complete those drawings? And then it has to come back to, once they're all completed, then they come back to the planning commission. And they're also submitted to the various approval agencies beyond the township, which is MDOT, Eaton County Road Commission, Eaton County Drain Commissioner's Office. There's the, in order to approve, they need permits from the state for the water and sewer system and all kinds of stuff before. So it, you know, it could take some time.
Okay, so
So
like,
you're looking at least to get through this small part of the process, you know, within, let's say 30 days. Then beyond that, it's up to the developer. How fast can we move in terms of nailing down the sanitary sewer design and all that stuff. So that's got to, excuse me, happen as well. So I don't know, you could be, I'm sure they're anxious to get their project going, but it's going to take some time to get all the ducks in a row to do that.
okay, and will there be a public hearing then for the site plans too?
It's a public meeting. You'll be invited to attend that. You can express any concerns you have over the plans. The plans will be available in my office if you want to look at them, you know, after they're submitted. There
Okay.
won't be another notification. That's not required by state law. So you can just keep in touch with my office and I'll let you know if I've received the application and when it's come before this body again. And then the action of the planning commission is to usually approve a plan if it's in fairly good shape, subject to a number of revisions. And then I make sure those revisions are made. So, or I can stamp them and get them on their way.
Okay. Another question I have, or a concern, I guess, that I have is I spent my career pretty much servicing this area and the community and stuff. And my concern with bringing in apartments, I don't know the price range and everything else and the additional traffic. And like in my neighborhood, without having some kind of way, especially with the entrance going right across, we'll have a lot more people driving through there. I'm concerned about the safety of my neighbors. You know, the safety with a bunch of renters, people that don't really care about where they're living, you know, like what Patty had said about it being residential, they're going to care a little bit more and it's going to be different people moving in there. But, you know, with crime coming up into the area higher, you know, with people cutting through our neighborhood, and we have tons of walkers, and I have just some concerns on that. But I know, like you had said, it's more of the road commission as to where that entrance is going to be at. But if they can move that entrance someplace else or go looking at more of the single family homes, appreciate that. The sanitation water line, when it cuts across, do we know, would that cut through our property at all, or would that go down along the roadways?
So it should go along the roadways.
So it wouldn't cut through back by us.
And we don't know what direction it's going.
Okay,
Barrington Woods won't be impacted.
okay. Okay, that's what I was kind of curious. I just wanted to make sure I could clarify that too, so. Okay, well, thank you very much, and thank you very much for answering all my questions, for your guys' time. I appreciate it.
The right of way, the additional 17 feet, is that on both sides of the road?
Well, so we get it when we can. So an undeveloped parcel is the perfect opportunity for the road commission to get the additional right of way. I believe that Barrington Woods provided the similar amount when that was developed. And again, I think we have it from Magaldi's. I'm not so sure with the, would it have been Gander Mountain? I'm not so sure there. So there are segments about on the east and west side where we probably don't have all that yet, but we'll have to get that right away for those improvements.
Both sides.
Yeah, so what Matt Hannes is telling me is that he wants 100 feet total, which is 50 feet each side of the center line.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Hello, my name is Michael Steen. I live at 7680 East Saginaw Highway. So up there on the map, I'm in the northwest corner. I own the two properties there. So as some of us laughed earlier, the pool in the one gentleman's yard on the right-hand side, there's often a pool on the left-hand side because the Hazel Drain actually runs through my property. So if you were to drive by within the last couple of weeks, you might have seen my kids out there swimming or in a boat. So my wife and I, who's here with me, moved here in August just of last year. We moved from Arizona where honestly, we paid half the price for this home as we would have paid double that price for a home in Arizona. So what drew us here was the property and the amenities that are so close. So I think it even mentioned in the description is that we felt like we were living in the country, but yet we had all these amenities and that was perfect for us. We do have 4 young children as well that live with us on this property. So to have 5 acres in that house, it was a no-brainer for us to buy. The only thing that almost held me back from buying this was with having kids was that traffic on East Saginaw Highway. I've already been warned a few times by my wife not to back out. So I actually have to use my neighbor's driveway, turn around, and then obviously watch to back out because it is very busy and some people do go over the speed limit on that road. So extremely very dangerous. But again, seeing the field, having that property, the concerns that I have again are things that I'm mentioning as far as people mention the wildlife. I do have deer that bed down in the middle of that property. We see the cranes that come on our property, all sorts of neat wildlife that my kids and I can enjoy. As some of the others have mentioned, just having the units on our property line. We have trails that we've cut through the 5 acres that we walk probably 2 or 3 times a day as a family and meet some of these other people in the subdivision there behind us. And we do have concerns about people coming in over to our property because there are trails there and it is nice to walk. So I am concerned a little bit for my family and their safety. To be quite honest, if I had known this was going to be there, talking to my wife, we probably wouldn't have bought the property, but we love it. And we love Delta Township, only being here since last August. Again, with the stormwater, my concern is, there probably is a proposal to redo it or revamp it with all the wetlands that are over there. I'm hoping that'll be sufficient that, in July when I came here, August, it was completely dry. But over the last 2 or 3 months, it's been nothing but puddles out there and really not usable even to walk around. So apparently it was fixed before. I don't know the history behind it here, but it's definitely standing there. It's definitely standing in the 5 acres back behind there. And it's definitely standing in the corner that's, I think, almost in that property. So really have a lot of concerns about the Hazel Drain and the stormwater coming over. And again, safety for my family and just the view, like some of the others have mentioned, of the farmland and the wildlife. So I'm probably missing a few things that my wife told me to say. But again, my first time speaking in front of you. So I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to come here and talk today. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Mike Lee, 117 Rivergate Lane in DeWitt. Along with my brother and sister, inherited this property from my dad.
Which property is that, sir?
The Broadbent property here that's being developed.
Oh, okay.
And I've been here since 1968, went to Waverly High School. So anything you say about Grand Ledge, I'm not listening to. But you also don't have to listen to me because, I'm disqualified because if this goes through, my family will be selling the property to the developer. I've been in the building business for 35 years. In that, I've been in the development aspect of it. I've been on the planning commission in DeWitt for 10 years. And I can say, number one, compliments to planning commission here because I've seen the development over 50 years. When I first came here from Lansing, we moved Michigan Avenue, and I think it was Ivan. Everything south of Michigan Avenue was a cornfield because we had a family that we would visit. And I wondered why anybody would live in a cornfield, but it's development. And I really appreciate the very eloquent and kind comments that everybody's had here. And they've been very clear. I think it's been so civilized that I can't stand it. But you've done a nice job on development compared to where Meridian Township was, which was totally anti-development. And they tried to shut everything down, and there's consequences to that. And that consequence, and the most immediate one in Okemos, because I lived there or I worked there for 10 years, was they had to close 2 elementary schools because they stopped getting people in. And I understand all of your concerns and they're all totally legitimate. But there are, everybody's anti-government. Locally, all these agencies I've worked with really try to do the right thing. And so if traffic becomes an issue, you definitely should talk to Road Commission. They do listen. And there are ways to mitigate the traffic on Saginaw, which I think is a little bit overdue in terms of speed compared to the development that's in here. Speaking to the fact of whether we need more housing or, more apartments or something else. Over the 50 years, my sister's an architect, I'm a builder, my brother's an engineer. We looked at possibly taking, the farm concept and putting in mini farms, but we found that there wasn't that much of a demand for it, more urban farms where everybody could have a piece of land and, farm it and it'd be closer, direct to their table type of stuff. But we looked at several of them, out east, and it wasn't generating enough revenue. It was just easier for us to have a farmer rent it. Also along the lines, because my dad was a builder, we were looking at developing it into single family residential. But if you look at all the amount of commercial, the single family residential is the least dense. And when we were proposing or doing the numbers to try to get single family residential, we had to get a much higher density of single family residential because the market study showed that people did not want single family homes as close to the commercial and retail development that was there. The prime areas are the Fox Ridge area and even further off of St. Joe, where I think it's Point West and Ashford Manor. Those are the things that are further away. And so the next choice was to try to go more commercial. And over the 50 years, I think past 30 years, Delta Township, darn you guys, has had a hard line at Broadbent, not allowing commercial or, retail development past that. And that was the primary and highest and best use I've been arguing forever along Saginaw, and then maybe putting higher density residential in there. I'm glad everybody enjoys the views there, but it's not the township. They didn't want to buy it so we could maintain a big park. And we were looking at the possibilities on it. I can, I've gone hunting there. We got great duck hunting over there. And I should have put a clause in there that I would be allowed to continue duck hunting, but it just wasn't a possibility. And so this is kind of what's called progress. And granted, the gentleman who lives on Saginaw has that view back there. I really don't think you're going to have a crime problem. I grew up in apartments because my dad built apartments because building houses was too much of a pain in the butt. And, you could develop a property, get higher density in there and get a better return on the income. And so I'm at the point now where I can't develop it anymore. And so this company came along. They have a very good pedigree. They're very responsible. They've used national level planning on this. And I think they're associated with some other types of housing and they want to get into this. And if you look at these apartments compared to, I think it's Redwood or even some of the other apartments, I don't think you're going to have a problem with people moving in here. I grew up in an apartment and I didn't really mug anybody. So there's a lot of good people that will be in there, mainly because of the type of housing that's going in there. They'll have kids possibly, but I think it's going to be mostly retirees that I will shortly become. And so that's all I really wanted to say. Thank you for the opportunity. I think the Planning Commission has done a really good job. I think you all have had great and legitimate comments. And I think they can all be resolved in the long run, but I think overall, this will be a great development for Delta Township. They've really known how to control the growth and they're not there to provide housing. They are there just to react to the market. And it's the different companies that decide what they can make on it and what they can put in there and make viable. And they're the ones that are taking the risk. And that's why we have the comprehensive development plan to allow that growth. And if we don't have growth, we don't have progress, it's not a good thing. It's not good in business. It's not good for the country. We are going to grow. We're at 340 million people. Remember when I was in high school, it was 220 million. So in that short, long period of time, we're growing and there is a demand for it. And I think the way that we're going to be growing in Delta Township has been the best compared to many townships, if you just do a little bit of research on it. So that's my statement. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Steve Johnson. This is my daughter, Alex. We live at 7722 Barsfield Lane, lot number 14. We are next door neighbors to the south of Norman Betsy Berger. I came here initially to talk about the tweaking of the berm in evergreens behind our properties, which I'm guessing is probably not the time to talk about that right now. That can be talked about on
Site plan review.
yeah, side plan reviews or anything like that.
Right.
My point that I want to get through to you now is the 303 going in there, you got 400 or 450 going in behind BJ's, right? You know, we're in the approval stage already. That's what, 750 units, 1,500 cars approximately. I talked to a first responder last summer, and when he works the Delta house here, he stays away from Saginaw between Canal and Broadbent, because he was telling me that it is within the top 5 of the most accident prone area during rush hour traffic mostly. So he avoids that area. What is going to happen when you get 1,500, 3,000 cars going back and forth to work, or that 1,500 twice a day, actually? I think that needs to get addressed as soon as possible, or as we, move forward with this project. I don't have a problem with the project. It's just that the traffic is terrible.
Thank you.
I would like to also add, I'm a teacher through Grand Ledge Public Schools. I'm before and after. I follow these buses on Saginaw. I watch people not stop when the stop sign goes out on buses. I am terrified that one of my kids I work with is going to get hit every day. Every day I watch it. I think that needs to be talked about. I'm not against it. We all facing the field, so we will have a crystal clear vision of the construction going on. We brought pictures to show you exactly what we look at. We see Menards, Sportsman Wheelhouse, the condos across the street. We see the steel. We see all the birds. We are grateful for the field. I'm not against it. We hear the lovely hunters in that field at 6 a.m. Thank you for that. That lets me know I gotta get out the door before I'm late. We're not against it. I'm concerned for the safety. Since this road was built, one of my parents found out that I live off of Broadbent, and she told me that she prays for me when it's raining and I have to go down Saginaw. The first rainfall that we had on Saginaw had head-on collision with the tree. And then the second one, the next day. I think that needs to be addressed. I think this needs to be talked about. Those people blow through this light. We could play a very interesting drinking game with the amount of sirens and police calls that we hear. And I know the people at the condos hear it too. We know exactly what direction it's going in, and it's not fun. And I don't even get alerts for it on my phone through 911, Eaton County. I know there's an accident when I hear the sirens. I always hope and pray that they are okay. But I don't want it to be one of us that have already lived here for a new project that's not even a day old yet. And I've lived here since I was 4.
Thank you.
You.
My name is Diane Burns and I live at 322 Barrington Circle. And I have a question though. Is there a timeline figured out for when the proposal for the change? And what is it called? The change in zoning. Thank you. The change in zoning is going to happen?
Over the next 30 days.
Yeah, so just for everybody, including the developer. So the planning commission hopefully will come to a decision this evening with regard to the request, either approval, denial, or postponement of the rezoning and special land use permit for the plan unit development. That's a recommendation. And then the next step is called an introduction. It's a procedural step. Nothing happens other than we have to meet a requirement of state law in terms of how we move this down the road to a point where they can make a decision. So that would happen probably next Monday, April 3rd, an introduction. The board won't take any comments on it or anything. They won't make any decisions. So it's really not necessary for anyone to be there except me. And then after that, at the next board meeting, which would normally be April 17th, then they would have it for final consideration. April 17th is a meeting that's going to be canceled, is my understanding. So the board won't have a meeting, but I believe it's possible that they have a meeting on the 10th that they normally don't make any decisions at, that because they're going to be gone on the 17th, the week previously, they'll make the final decision. So I don't know that for sure, but I'm looking at April 10th probably for an answer from the board. If it doesn't happen on the 10th, then we're looking into May, which would be first Monday is May 1st.
Yes.
So I don't think it'll happen there because we're looking at canceling that meeting, which would mean that again, May 15th would be the farthest out that you'd expect a decision.
So this is our final input
No,
today?
no, that's not
Okay.
true. So the board will take comments during the meeting that they're going to make the final decision, hopefully. And so you'll have they'll limit probably the time. They'll get all the comments from the proceeding almost verbatim tonight. They'll get all the staff reports, they'll get all the correspondence. So they'll have a full packet of information prior to making a decision. They'll allow comment probably for a limited period, maybe 3 to 5 minutes, or they'll ask if there's a person that can represent a group to speak for the group, to kind of cut down on the amount of time it would take. So no, you'll have an opportunity there. Then beyond that, if that gets approved, then the developer has to come back with a full set of engineering drawings to the planning commission again. And then you'll have an opportunity at the planning commission meeting to speak again.
And there's pretty much, it's considered moderate density, not anything with low density.
Well, so that's confusing. So the zoning classification is moderate density.
Right.
But the comprehensive plan, that's the township's guide to long-term development throughout the township, they call it low density. And that corresponds to the low density residential zoning classification and the moderate density zoning classification. So it takes in 2 zoning classifications, that narrative in the plan. So this density of around 5 units an acre is what's being proposed. That's consistent to what the plan refers to as a low density residential development plan pattern.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
My name is Ann Lawrence and I live at 316 Barrington Circle. I have lived in Barrington Woods for 9 years. And prior to my moving there, I had called the Eaton County Sheriff's Department to inquire about the crime level in the area. I was told by the Sheriff's Department that it was not a concern in Barrington Woods and in that area. And, you know, there might be some shoplifting at Walmart, but anyway, that can always change with the more people coming into the area, but I've had a good experience living in this area. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Laura Cooper. I'm at 324 Barrington Circle. I want to get something funny off the way, but I moved here from Charlotte. I lived in Charlotte my whole life, bought a condo in Barrington Woods in the midst of COVID when they first opened the market, and I was so thrilled with it. And I absolutely love the community that I live in, and I love being in Delta Township as well. But, you know, the first 2 months I moved in, all of a sudden I get the letter for Menards coming in. And now I'm getting this development coming in. So I feel like I'm being squeezed out. And so I just wondered when the airport was coming in. Sorry. Can I get a little clarification on that 17 feet on Broadbent that you talked about? Was that going to be on east or west?
Well, I believe Barrington Woods, I'd have to check the plan if you want to call me in my office, you know,
Okay.
later in the week. I think Barrington Woods already provided the 17 feet when that project was developed.
Okay.
And so they need the other half, which would be the west side. They need 17 feet of additional right of way there to make a total of 100 feet.
Okay.
Now, all along Broadbent from Saginaw to St. Joe, they'll need that 100 feet. So there are areas where I'm sure that the road commission does not have sufficient right of way at this time. So if there is a project ready to be constructed, they'll have to approach all those property owners where they do not have sufficient right of ways to see if they can buy it.
The road commission. Okay. All right. Thank you for your time.
Seeing no one else coming forward, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
No,
Go, come on.
it's okay.
All right.
I wasn't gonna come up
Name and
here.
address for record, please.
Do what?
Name and address for the
Oh,
record.
Ron Aves, 11465 Broadbent. It's adjacent south of the proposed complex.
Okay.
I've lived here for 79 years in Delta Township. Our family had to sell to, that's where Menards is now. We have got a lot of people talking about the traffic, and it is terrible up there. Come on up between 7:30 and 9:30, 8:30, and try to get out on Saginaw. The drainage is an issue. It does not show on the map, but it does come back on my property occasionally. When we get some heavy rain. The wildlife that they spoke of also is about anything that lives in Michigan, southern Michigan, comes out in our backyards, which is fine, and I'm a hunter. But I'm concerned about we have enough issues now, people wandering around on our property. A couple of different times I've got them out by my barn and just wandering around. I've had to call the police a few times because they were walking away with stuff. So we're gonna put 300 buildings in there, apartments in there. What are we gonna have now? And I appreciate the fact that the proposal, would you bring that property up for me? The south edge of it?
You want the site plan back up, or do you want?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
You've got a barrier between the south edge of my property, north, there's woods along that area. It's probably about 75 feet wide. It's not on my property. So is that gonna be left like that?
Yep, right in there. Right in that area.
It's the current proposal, but I'll let the developer confirm or deny. Mr. Knowles, are you still with us? He's asking if the natural wooded area will be maintained along the southern boundary.
We're trying not to disturb it.
Any place trees are at and or water, is that correct?
It's actually regulated well. So you're not.
All right. Yeah, I've been here for, like I probably already told you that I was born here where Menards is. And it's hard. I really appreciate the wetlands and the property to give us a little place for the animals and the people to walk through and everything. I'm just concerned about putting all those people in that piece of property and how many times I'm gonna have to chase them offline without putting a fence up. And that's pretty much all I gotta say. You know, we got other people that they've been here for their full lifetime too, and they haven't spoken yet, but we gotta have progress, but I don't see the density that we need. That that's gonna be. The subdivisions that have been put in have been fine. People are good. And I guess I spoke enough about that.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is that correct? We have a
I move we close the public hearing.
Support.
move by Mr. McConnell, supported by Mr. Kozinski, that we close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carried. Commissioners, any further questions of the developer? Or staff?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Boudry.
Gary, would it be appropriate if I made some comments?
Sure.
Okay. I had, after going over my homework and the packet here, I told my wife I wasn't going to be home till probably 9 o'clock. So I've got some time. I just want to bring everybody up to speed. A lot of stuff you probably don't know. But it was more than 10 years ago when a developer came to us for building some apartments on Marketplace. Okay, and I had asked our planning director, Mark Graham at the time, I said, Mark, I said, how are we looking for housing in Delta Township? And he says, I don't know. He says, let me check, I'll get back with you. So he got back with me and he says, there is no housing in Delta Township. He says, we're at 95 to 98% full. There's a little bit of shuffling going on, but there's really no housing. I said, well, then we got to approve the apartments then. Yeah, it looks like it. So we approved the zoning change. Those apartments never got built. So there was really no movement in building any housing. And we didn't improve the 95 to 98% factor. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gary.
No, that's still correct. Yeah.
Okay. So
Even with the newer projects with
Yeah.
Redwood,
so
we're still at that number.
yeah, so then Delta Crossings comes and there's housing involved in there. I'm excited, you know, we're gonna get some new housing. Well, that hasn't happened yet. And so we're still 98% full. We've got the General Motors battery plant coming in. We don't have any place for people to live around here. So this one comes down on broadband. Okay, and I'm excited again. And one thing, whenever there's housing proposals, my wife says to me, Mark, could we afford to live there? See, my wife gets involved sometimes. And I said, well, I don't know. They haven't listed any prices yet. And she says, okay. So we're in need of housing in this area. And God only knows, we all know about the traffic because we all live here too. And I was in discussions with MDOT and we were discussing the boulevard situation. Okay. 10 or more years ago, we went to MDOT and said, you know, we would kind of like Saginaw to be a boulevard to correct some of the traffic problems. And MDOT says, no, we're not going to do any boulevard. So recently, within, what was it, two years, Gary?
Yeah, it's been about 20 years ago, Mark. In terms of,
Well, I'm
been-
old and I'm forgetting.
because we had been as the new Quality Dairy, if you remember, that was.
Yeah.
When all those properties were developed, the township undertook an effort to get the right of way because we wanted the boulevard.
Yeah.
And so we handed all that stuff
Yeah.
over to them. But yeah, you're right. Maybe 2-3 years ago, they came to us and said,
So they come
that's not a
to
bad
us.
idea.
They come to us and said, hey, we're thinking about making Saginaw into a boulevard.
Oh.
Went, well, what a unique idea. You know, you're just a little late to the party.
Hmm.
So that has not come about yet. But my latest talks with them is that a short section from 496 to Broadbent is going to be turned into a boulevard. Okay, and that's why the discussions about the entrance and exits have come about. So there's going to be some changes in that area. Okay. And
Excuse me, can you explain how a boulevard?
okay, the boulevard will stop people from making left turns in front of you. Okay. The first tweak was when they put the islands along, like in front of the mall there. So the left turn lane couldn't be turned into a high-speed merge lane, head-on collisions, you know. But let's see. Getting back to the housing thing, is that there's an article about the needs for Michigan housing. 190,000 units need to be built. Okay.
Within the state.
100, no, in Michigan.
I know, within the state,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, 190,000. Okay. So we're not the only ones that are in need of housing. And like I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Mr. Knowles mentioned about the storm sewers, storm drainage. Okay. His development cannot change the direction of the drainage. Okay, he cannot develop his land so the flow goes onto your properties. He cannot change that. So there should be no fear about that. As a matter of fact, in my discussions with the county drain department, places like Menards, Walmart, whatever, they had more problems for drainage than this development would. Actually, this development here is doing a good job for controlling the drainage. But I just wanted to trying to calm your fears a little bit. I don't really see a problem here. I know that it appears that with all the houses and stuff that there's going to be more traffic, and there probably is, but you know, the traffic studies were done. Even the project before your projects, you know, we looked at it pretty thoroughly about the timing of traffic and the amount of traffic, whatever. But I just wanted to let you in on some of the things that come across my desk. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. If there's any other comments? What's your pleasure as far as the motions?
We're doing two different motions.
Should be two separate
Two
motions,
separate
yes.
motions.
Which one is the,
Gotta do the rezoning first.
I got the special land use, and the other one is the zoning.
Correct. 123.5 is the rezoning, 123.6 is the special land use permit.
What page is it on?
It'll be 11 and 12. My report.
It's on the screen if you want to.
Bottom of page 11. Here.
Okay, I'll make the motion. I move that the Delta Township Planning Commission recommend to the Delta Township Board approval of the request to rezone the property described in case number 01-23-05 from AG2 agricultural residential to moderate density residential.
It should say for the following two reasons.
Stipulations
Two stipulations. Or two reasons.
that are two, yeah.
Those two. Those are the two stipulations.
Two
Do
reasons.
you want me to read those?
Yes, go ahead.
The request allows for the advancement of the residential goals and objectives stated in the Delta Township Comprehensive Plan. And number two, the findings of fact required for rezoning by section 16-04 of the Delta Township zoning ordinance can be satisfied.
Is there a second?
Forward.
A vote by Mr. Mudry, support by Mr. Kaczynski that we approve the rezoning. This is a roll call vote.
Okay, Commissioner Kozinski,
Support.
Commissioner Mudry,
Support.
Commissioner Elzinger,
Support.
Commissioner McConnell supports. Commissioner Meadow,
Support.
Commissioner Schweitzer,
Support.
the motion carries.
Okay. Next, is a special land use permit. Prepare to make a motion on that.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion. I move that Delta Township Planning Commission recommend to the Delta Township Board approval of the request for the special land use permit to establish a planned unit development on the property described in case number 0123-06 for the following reasons. One, the request meets the general standards specified for special land uses in section 7-03 of the Delta zoning ordinance. And number two, the request meets the specific standards specified for PUDs in section 5.03 of the Delta Township zoning ordinance. the issuance of the special land use permit for the planned unit development, PUD, shall be subject to the following stipulations, which there are 4.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Moody, supported by Mr. Meadow, that we issue the special land use permit. Again, this is a roll call vote.
Okay, Commissioner Elzinga,
Support.
Commissioner McConnell supports, Commissioner Mutri,
Support.
Commissioner Kozinski,
Support.
Commissioner Meadow,
Support.
and Chair Schweitzer.
Support.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Bozak.
So as I explained earlier, this is the initial recommendation by the planning commission to the township board to approve both the rezoning and special land use permit requirement for this project. So the next step would be the introduction that I spoke of, which will probably happen next Monday. And then following that, final consideration by the board, perhaps on April 10th. So get in touch if you're interested in attending that meeting, get in touch and I'll confirm whether or not that's when the board will do final consideration on it. Otherwise, we're looking at the third Monday in May. So again, I'm here 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. So, and then I'd also recommend if you hear that, if you attend the meeting and see that the board does approve it, then just keep in touch with my office as to when I receive the application for site plan review. And again, when a meeting will be scheduled before the planning commission to discuss the detailed site plan.
Okay. Next is on the agenda is planning director comments.
I don't have many. I don't know how familiar you are with the situation where East Lansing is losing employees. We're gaining them, and one of them happens to be from East Lansing. So we have a gentleman that was in the planning department at East Lansing, who's now to become our director of economic and community development. His name is Peter Menser. He starts on April 3rd. So when he's on board, I'll bring him before the commission, introduce him. And we've got a lot of things scheduled for him. So hopefully we don't scare him off. But he's a good guy. He's been around the region for a long time. He was at Meridian Township before East Lansing. So welcome him aboard. Excuse me, Delta Crossing. The Delta Crossing development is still on hold pending litigation. I think they're in appeals now. So that 400 units that we were expecting, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm not sure who's going to end up with what in terms of the different phases that are proposed, existing and proposed phases. What's going to happen to the at-home store? We're trying to get answers on what's going to happen to that. We hope that since at-home's not coming, if they can't use the shell, that they remove it because it's an attractive nuisance. So stay tuned on that one. As I
Said you
mentioned,
can't use the shell.
can't use the shell. It's not, our building official, Matt Leach, says it's not in good shape because it's been sitting there so long. Yeah,
So what's erected is no longer any good?
that's what I'm hearing, yes. So again, so we're waiting for the resolution of the lawsuits for anything to go forward there.
Basically, no new developments as far as we're concerned.
Not, I'm not, as far as how long it'll take to resolve everything, we don't know. So
I read something just recently that Kurt is back involved in the.
he thinks he is. So I think he'd like everyone to believe that, but I think it's more complicated than the news article indicated. So what else is going on? Yeah, next, I think, I don't know if I mentioned the next chapter development that was gonna be rentals, single family detached rentals. Maybe it didn't get to you. There was an article on that too. So I prepared.
Excuse me, sir.
Can you step outside, please?
One check. Step outside, close the door.
Only one meeting at a time. Close it.
I can't hear well enough already.
So we were approached by a developer out in Augusta, Georgia. Not for a golf course, sorry. To do a single family detached rental housing development, all detached, all have garages, all have little white picket fences, smaller than typical homes. But they needed to be in a multifamily district, and we don't allow single family homes in multifamily districts. And so we approached the township board, who agreed to proceed with an amendment to the zoning ordinance that allowed smaller single family detached homes in the multifamily residential zoning district. And then we're going through the process. The board referred them to you. You haven't seen them yet, of course. And next chapter, put the brakes on the development. The main reason they told me was Michigan taxes, without much detail beyond that. And so it appears that they had other developments ongoing that were economically more favorable than this particular project they were going to do in Delta. They still want to do a project in Delta, but the one that they had on Marketplace Boulevard, I guess they put on the back burner. And I don't know if they'll proceed with that or not, because the same issues with sanitary sewer exist for that development as well. And so the board authorized the planning commission to proceed with reviewing the amendments, because if they don't do something in anywhere in the township, we're going to get this as an emerging development type that we'd like to be ready for. And so we're going to go ahead with those probably in late May, early June. I just wanted another chance to look at them. And I wanted the new guy who's had some planning, a lot of planning experience, as well as community development, economic development, to help me take a look at it too, to make sure we're not missing something. So.
What are the sizes? Is there smaller?
So their footprints are basically 440 square feet. But they're I don't know, tiny homes are tinier. According to some of the definitions. They're 2-story units, most of them. And so, the actual square footage is probably around 1,000 square feet. Okay. But at ground level, they're smaller footprint. And they do have attached garages, 2-car garages. They will have, they have the same dog parks and clubhouses and pools and pickleball, and it was a nice looking development. They're doing, the nearest one to Delta is in Indianapolis somewhere. The gentleman I worked with and trying to figure out how we can fit them in Delta really wants to do a project in Delta, and he was kind of disappointed that his bosses pulled the plug on it. He said he has his father-in-law lives in Rochester Hills and speaks very highly of Delta, and how we're the kind of the model for this size community in the state. So that was nice to hear. And he asked if they burned any bridges. I said no, not as far as I'm concerned. And hopefully we can. There were other sites besides the one that they were looking at Marketplace Boulevard. I said I gave you a half a dozen sites. And so, feel free to come back and we'll work on one of those. So we'll see. All I have, unless you have questions about other stuff that you see going on.
Comment, Mr. There is a movement, I've been reading about this, that older people are downsizing to smaller apartments. They're selling their homes, they're giving their homes to kids or whatever, probably because of all the junk in the house. But Yeah, they're downsizing to smaller places. Preferred rentals because they're easy. When end of life comes, it's easy to dispose of. But yeah, it's a trend. It's definitely a trend, but 100 square feet, I was thinking more like double that, 400 square.
Well, 400 is.
For the first floor, then it's
That's the
two-story.
footprint is 400 square feet, but then they're 2 stories, so they're 800, 1,000, there's a variety of different, I think he told me 16 different floor plans that they deal with.
Oh,
So not that they'd all be available in this particular development, but they have 16 floor plans, so.
okay.
Well, if you're ever in Indiana, I guess you can. They did provide me with, like nice renderings and an example project, one in Indiana, and the board was interested in trying to accommodate something like that, knowing that that's the demand for smaller spaces. And we don't necessarily allow that currently. So.
Sure, that's exciting.
Is there I would say a developer, project developer for a place like this that we could look at online?
Yeah, go to next chapter.com. I think it is very simple. And there's, they have pretty pictures of their developments. They have some.
Oh, we like
site
pictures.
plans. But hopefully we can get them back here. Again, Michigan taxes, that didn't give me a lot of information.
They should have known that before they. originally.
Next chapter properties.com, it looks like.
Next, okay.
All one word, man.
Yep. Unless they're fishing for like a payment in lieu of taxes pilot,
Right.
which the township currently can't do because we're prohibited by a local ordinance. So I know there's a lot of different opportunities for pilots and things, and they've opened it up in some different programs at the state for housing related tax incentive. So Brian and I attended a seminar for that. It's nice that townships now can avail themselves of some of these programs where we couldn't before, but I'm not so sure the board is ready to give up that permission. So.
This was actually next chapter neighborhoods.com. That was the other one was an apartment complex. This is neighborhoods.
So can you put that up?
Yeah, I'll put that up. He had a picture of
Next chapter neighborhoods.
There you go. So little white picket fences.
They're adorable.
Yeah.
My parents would get one of those in a heartbeat.
And again, all the amenities, clubhouses, pools, dog parks. Like
Yeah.
It's a dollhouse.
Well, it's gonna
That's exactly why.
have pickleball. I don't know how you can.
They say no.
So they seemed to be in tune with what, people are wanting.
Right.
Here in the agenda, a couple weeks ago for the township stipulated reappointment of 3 commissioners.
Yes, and they all
That
got
was
reappointed at the last meeting. Yes.
Rachel,
Mr.
Bob,
McConnell
and
and
Marita.
Marita. Yep.
Okay.
So, yep. Yeah, you have to
Without excitement.
well,
No,
there
this
was
time.
some commenting. I wasn't at that meeting, but I heard it was a lively discussion.
Oh,
You can watch it on YouTube.
I didn't even know it was coming up.
Yeah, so,
Now, Gary, on this right here,
mhm.
my wife's gonna ask me, right? Can we afford it? How much?
Well, how much they were, I don't know, man, if you remember, it was like $1,500 per.
There's a price point or something.
Oh.
Yeah, we're starting at around 1,500 as I remember a month.
Competitive with Redwood.
It was about
Is
that.
that what Redwood is?
Yeah, Redwood's
It was about the same.
That
as
neighborhood.
yeah, they knew their competition, so yeah, they were right in the Redwood range. With Redwood has fewer amenities, but
No pickleball.
But they're bigger.
they're bigger.
Is there anything on the agenda for 2 weeks? What, our next?
Not yet. unless I push those amendment packages about this type of development. So,
All right.
the only other thing, we've got to do our typical annual meeting for appointment of officers and committee appointments.
Right.
That's next meeting, right?
Well, if we have a meeting, it'll be
It's usually-
one of your April meetings.
Usually,
Yeah,
Yes,
yes.
you're thinking about that, because I'm done, and it's just Arnie and Marita. Maybe can move up.
Yeah, I'll do the typical memo.
Gary, did David tell you about our experience at the bank's drain?
Yes.
I think a lot of people are gonna be pretty shocked. There was 38 people there for our meeting. I beg people to go. But it's scary.
Excuse me.
Dealing with
this cold.
Yeah.
So the drain office is supposed to make a presentation to the board coming up here. I'm not sure which meeting. So.
They have 7 options. And there's 2,000 properties involved, not 2,000 houses, 2,000 properties. And we're looking at probably between 40 million and $72 million to upgrade the storm sewers. Okay, this is the storm sewer that goes from 496 down Waverly all the way up to Grand River. It's a narrow stretch. And they're only, even at that price, at that cost, they're only upgrading to a 10-year flood.
10-year storm, yeah.
Storm, yeah. And there's 7 tributaries connected to this, and they're all gonna get involved. Eventually, they'll get involved. And the way I got it figured is that Home Depot and that Waverly Mall shopping center there, they're gonna be paying probably 25 to 30 times what I'm gonna pay because of the water runoff.
Yeah.
And detention ponds are key to keeping a lower price. That's why this project here with these ponds and detention stuff, that's a good thing for them.
It's natural runoff.
Yep.
Natural
But
storm.
MDOT is going to get dinged, and the road commission is going to get dinged because the roads all have runoff. So one of the people in the audience took $40 million, divided it by 2,000 properties, and said, well, each of us are going to have to pay $32,000 in assessment. Well, that isn't how it's done. But it's scary. But you're going to have 30 years to pay it off if you want. Some people may need the 30 years.
Okay, wasn't there some talk about some drain issues that could come up with this project or not?
Sanitary sewer.
Sanitary sewer is the
Okay.
obstacle they need to.
That looks like that's going to be the stalling point.
Yeah.
That's the bottleneck.
Yeah, that's it. So right now, the township, and we have a consultant, OHM, that has our model for sewer. And so they're doing, well, they've run the model a few times based on a couple different scenarios. And they're supposed to be, it should be coming any time now because we started this work 6-8 weeks ago.
I can't believe the Willow even came into the district.
Well, we can, apparently we can get some considerable amount of extra capacity, but just by changing the pumps out and adding it. Well, I think they had 2 more pumps. So, yeah.
Because I mean, they're always talking.
Originally, it wasn't.
Lift stations and pumps and
Yeah, originally Willow wasn't an option, but Bernie thinks it is now. Yeah, the cost of the, I don't, we don't know the cost of anything, but when we told Mr. Knowles that, the cost of getting service to him, I think it was $9 million for the pipe, and the second, that's actually the third pipe under I-96.
Just for his portion.
Well, for anybody now.
Okay.
For anything that happens, and so he's the first one in. And so we have to figure out how he'll be assessed for his fair share. And that's.
Yeah, but if you're tearing the road up anyway, I mean, it's a good time to put it through. I mean, if they're putting the boulevard through, I mean, they're gonna dig it all up. So run it through, do it once,
Exactly.
coordinate it. And
Please,
right.
one time. Yes, please.
So, yeah, we should have an answer as what the best routing is within next couple of days. Once we know that, then we can figure out how much it's gonna cost. We have other developments waiting. We have, especially for the Willow lift station, the Broadbent Woods area, our Savior Church, south of there's property that they want to do a site condominium development. They've been sitting on their hands, most because of me, because I won't take the application. I don't know how they're gonna get served, but that's also, storm drainage was also an issue there because of Mr. NAC4 and all that area. He sued us and he sued the drain office. It was very vocal in the local newspapers, so first thing was show me how you're gonna fix the storm drainage. So they worked on that, and then now the sewer problem. So there's gonna be plenty, so, the 400 units in Delta Crossings, they're gonna have to chip in because they're gonna go through the pipes under the freeway. So we have this development, the site condo development, we have, the one at Delta Crossings, we would have had this next chapter, we would have had, 2,000 units to split the cost.
So does Redwood 2 dodge the bullet because they're on the other side of 96?
Yep, exactly.
Even though they'll share the pipe on the other side.
Yep, it's getting to the other side that's problem.
Yep.
Any other questions about Gary? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Support. Moved by Mr. Kaczynski, more support by Mr. Meadow. That we adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried.
Never vote on that. Never vote on that. I've never heard anybody say, yeah, I know to continue.
Sure, at age.
Like more, yeah.
Yeah, I got another.
You see in the back?
That's true. You gotta kill time, Mark.
Yeah, you never have too many backups. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Gotta leave one.
Getting Peter.
Oh, yeah.
Exciting news for you guys.
Yeah. I don't think he is too.
Yeah, I know, I think you'll fit in really, really well here. It's gonna be great. She said he starts in 2 weeks.
Yeah, April 3rd.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Can't wait to harass him.
Yeah.
So- I worked with him at Tri-County a lot, so.
Yeah, I tell you.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure. Take care, guys. Have a good night.
Got there this morning, I just went to just use the steam room. Oh, okay.
The only drawback to doing it is it would work.
Done.
Gets more, 3 times, gets more parking now.
Yeah, but it's still an issue.
I gotta get more.
How to get across. property.
Oh,
There's nothing I can do about that.
Yep.
we should have
Came parked in my driveway because there's a lift issue. Usually I'm the ones that sign my- Got the flow for the days going through the lift station. Right away, basically.
Doing that in Orlando.
So Mackenzie, E.T. Mackenzie. owns E.T. Mackenzie built a red lift station. And when they came in, they said, "Front car." You're building a lift station. Get the easement. It's part of your deal. I don't know what happened.
If you can read them.
They didn't.
I work way worse than the negative. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Joe.
Thank you.
Yep. How you coming?
I got a cold right now. It's bugging me. So
Otherwise, okay.
otherwise, okay.
Good.
It has.
Yeah, we're gonna-
Yeah, me too.
I asked, Mr. Gold, I said, we also want access to the pool.
Oh, I mean.
He said there's an annual fee for that. I said, well, that's what I'm asking, that we don't have an annual fee for that. So, but I was talking to him a little bit and some things he's like, well, and I said, well, you could move some of these units a little bit. Yeah, well, you. So, but I said, I'm just asking you, when you do your plans, to be aware of the people and where they. I really appreciate, I know my neighbors have come talk to you too, it's the same thing. You guys have been so great to talk to. You've been so transparent about things. You've been super informative, not talking at least over my head, because sometimes it's like, what, you explain things well. So just really want to thank you guys for.
Well, I appreciate
all
that.
your
We
stuff.
try. I mean, nothing's set in stone.
Well, no, and it's not. And I think that's why, people, I mean, I appreciate that you have taken the time with us, because I feel like not knowing this process, I mean, I work at LCC, I can tell you everything about how our things work and our processes and our board of trustees. That's why I asked you, so is it open? When you said it's kind of laid back, I'm like, really? I'm used to like 3-minute meetings, or 3-minute things, but it's nice, because I'm sure you have people coming to you guys all the time. And it's just nice to have someone explain the process, say this is what's next. And I guess, at my end and my husband's end, and even some of my neighbors, it's like, you don't know when to bring up what, when, but you want to make sure it's on record. So you've kind of been heard, type of thing. So, you guys I just really want to thank you guys for what you've done. I know you probably don't get always nice things and stuff like that. You have a good job, but
We try.
yeah, you do. And I just again, wanted to say thank you. I know probably the best way to find out about site plans and stuff is just to kind of stay in contact with you.
Yeah,
or-
just an email or
Okay.
just.
They post on the website, like.
Yeah,
the
if
Friday.
the agendas are posted
So-
on the website
So
usually.
that's a different meeting than the planning commission meeting. Like, these are meetings that just talk about, like, we said it's,
So this is like an appointed board, where they just do development stuff. The
Oh.
final decision on all this stuff is the township board, which is the
Right,
elected
right.
official.
so when the site plans, when the developer does submits the site plans and stuff,
That would be with this board.
that would be with this board here. So we want to be coming here and stuff like that. Would it be inappropriate to see the plans and talk to you guys like, hey, we want, we would like this, or we would like, that would be just to stop. I don't want to bug you guys, but I also,
Just be prepared that the plan set, once they get down to the nitty gritty, it's gonna be. It could be 10 pages, it could be 50 pages.
Yeah.
To go through.
Yeah.
So you just have to be willing to, kind of fly spec. it,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
They have a good engineer. We've worked with them before.
Yeah.
So, again, they're gonna be held up in terms of actually starting the project. Until we figure out the sanitary sewer situation.
Yeah.
And actually have done the design work on our end and bid the project out and have somebody on board. So that's gonna take time.
Yeah.
That could be 2 years.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I give you guys kudos. You are taking very technical stuff, bringing it down to the common person. You're calm about it. I'm sure people, and I hope that, I'm being respectful of you guys and your time too.
Sure, yeah, no
But,
problem.
I
Those
just.
sites, we don't get a lot of people recently coming in for public hearing.
Yeah.
6 or 8 people.
Those condo people got their act together, man. They're all like next. And
Yeah,
so,
that's tremendous. Yeah.
Yeah, but, no, I did talk, is it Knowles? Is that his last name?
Jack.
Knowles, yeah. He was pretty, a couple of things he kind of got a little
Yeah.
gruffy with me
Yeah.
about, and I'm just like, okay, buddy, I'm just asking, you know, I know I'm not your big developer thing, but I said, we do live here, we love Delta, and I do, I mean, people say, oh, you're in Grand Ledge, I'm like, nope, I'm in Delta Township, which I know there's always been this thing about, you know, us
Yeah.
being a township and like being, not an official, I know we're official township, but like having a
Yeah. like
zip code.
townships, it's like they would just go by. the mail.
Yeah, it's just like, no, I like to say, I am from Delta Township, you know,
Mr. Knowles has relatives that lives in Barrington Woods, so.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right, in those condos?
not getting invited to think.
I didn't,
Oh.
I don't know if they came tonight, but.
Yeah.
Yes, mentioned, I think he has two relatives.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I am thankful, when someone said, when the property owner said, you know, Delta Township's held this hardened thing about Barbara having commercial, I went like this, I'm like, yeah, I'm all for that, because I tell you, when that development, when that Myers went in Grand Ledge, we knew people who lived, whatever the subdivision is right behind it, that Dyble built years ago.
Oh, yeah.
We knew people who were way down the road, but boy, those people at the front, they were, I mean, I do not want lights and hearing semis back up at 2 a.m. to drop off, you know?
Yeah.
So we were and I think maybe you or David, when that for sale sign first went off,
Oh.
it's a commercial, and I ran into the office, I'm like, they're like, oh, we hate that, people do that, those big,
That was-
and I was like, going,
Yes.
I see commercial, I'm gonna spray
I
paint.
don't, they never call and ask, it's just like,
No.
oh, commercial, industrial, whatever you want.
I know, they just put everything up, so. But anyways, but again, thank you so much. I know we'll be seeing each other and stuff like that, but I just want to thank you guys for all you're doing. Okay, thanks. Have a good night.
Two.
Oh, man.
It's like, oops, I forgot.
Man, I won't be in the office tomorrow.
Tomorrow's
Tomorrow's Tuesday.